Vatican City had seen many extraordinary days, but none quite like this. It wasn't the thunderclap over the dome of St. Peter's Basilica that startled the morning crowd, nor was it the silent procession of cardinals in crimson, moving like shadows over cobblestones. No, the strangest sight that morning was a dog, a small, sandy-colored dog, seated patiently at the bronze gates of the Apostolic Palace, unleashed, unafraid. His name? Esteban. The dog had become a familiar presence during the final months of Pope Francis's life. At first, he was seen during evening strolls near the Vatican Gardens, then later by the elevators inside the guest house where the Pope had chosen to live, shunning the apostolic apartments. Eventually, Esteban was no longer someone's dog. He simply was. And he was loved. In his last days, Pope Francis was often seen sitting in silence, Esteban curled by his feet. Visitors spoke of how the old man would stroke the dog's head without saying a word. His eyes sometimes filled with sorrow, sometimes with peace. When the Pope passed away, Esteban didn't leave his side. The staff reported he refused food for 2 days, lying next to the empty bed. But then came the day of the funeral, and the moment that left everyone speechless. As the Swiss guards opened the gates to prepare for the papal mass, Esteban slipped past them, walking calmly down the center aisle of St. Peter's Square. He sat near the wooden coffin that bore the name Franciscus, as if he knew. No one dared move him. That image, of a humble dog beside the coffin of the man once called the Vicar of Christ, quickly circled the world. But what few people know is what happened afterward, behind closed doors, when a new pope looked into the dog's eyes and saw something no one else did. The Sistine Chapel had never seen anything like it. After the white smoke rose and the bells of St. Peter's rang, the world learned the name of the new pope, Leo XIV. A Jesuit, like his predecessor, but younger, sharper, quieter. Some said he was chosen for unity, others for reform. But before addressing the world, Leo XIV asked for a moment of silence. Inside the Vatican Gardens, beneath the scent of pine and incense, he found Esteban waiting, not roaming, waiting. What happened next wasn't recorded in any official document, but eyewitnesses say the new pope knelt down, placed his forehead to Esteban's, and whispered something in Latin. Then he picked him up. The papal tailors were asked to make accommodations. No, not robes for the dog, but discreet clearance for Esteban to remain inside Domus Sanctae Marthae, the Pope's residence. For the first time in Vatican history, a papal dog would be allowed inside sacred spaces. Cardinals murmured, journalists speculated. Some even criticized, but Leo XIV was unmoved. When asked why, he simply said, "He was loved by a man of God. That's enough." Over the next weeks, Esteban's presence became a quiet symbol. He sat by Leo XIV during morning prayers. He trotted beside the Pope's car during pastoral visits. At times, he simply stared into the distance, as if listening to a voice only he could hear. Some wondered, was this mere sentiment or something more? Because behind the silence a question stirred across the Catholic world. Had Esteban been a comfort to the dying Francis, or had he carried a message forward? A bridge between the old and the new. By now, Esteban was more than a companion. He was the silent presence in every meeting room, the quiet breath beneath every proclamation. He lay beneath the Pope's chair during the Synod on migration. He paced the balcony just before Leo XIV delivered his landmark encyclical on artificial intelligence. And when the Pope traveled to Asia, Esteban remained faithfully by his side, even on the plane. But there were moments more mysterious. One evening, during a thunderstorm, The lights flickered in the papal library. A cardinal later described hearing Leo XIV whisper a prayer. Not in Italian, not in Latin, but in Spanish. The same soft Castilian the late Francis had used when speaking to Esteban? Some began to ask, had the new pope received more than just affection from the dog? A Vatican aide, requesting anonymity, hinted at a private letter. A final note from Francis, left not to a bishop, but folded in Esteban's collar. "He will know who it's for," the Pope had written. Whether this was true, no one could confirm. But Leo XIII's eyes, once cold with discipline, now softened in the dog's presence, and some said his reforms, gentler, more inclusive, bore the quiet fingerprints of the man before him. In the end, Esteban asked for nothing. He barked rarely. He never begged. He simply was. A bridge between two papacies, perhaps even two worlds. And as the Vatican bells rang once more, Esteban sat again by the bronze gates, not as a guard, not as a relic, but as a quiet witness to the strange, mysterious, and deeply human grace that sometimes visits the throne of St. Peter. Esteban has now grown accustomed to the Vatican's marble corridors, its cold stone steps, intricate frescoes, and the profound silence that defines its sacred halls. He no longer barks when guards approach, nor flinches at the resonant chimes of the basilica bells. It's as if he understands the gravity of his surroundings. Yet, what lingers most in people's minds isn't Esteban's presence, but the void he subtly fills. Pope Francis once referred to Esteban as the last companion I didn't need to teach. Not because the dog was exceptionally intelligent, but perhaps because the Pope was too weary to instruct. In his final months, Francis often sat by the window, hands trembling, with Esteban nestled at his feet. No words exchanged, no ceremonies, just silent companionship. When Pope Leo XIV took Esteban in, the act transcended mere adoption. It wasn't just about inheriting a pet, it was about embracing the silent legacy of his predecessor. This narrative isn't merely about a dog, it's about succession, not just of authority, but of humility, solitude, and unwavering loyalty. In a world driven by haste, debates, and power struggles, the image of a dog quietly following a coffin, and later walking beside a new pope, resonates deeply. It's a symbol not orchestrated, but universally understood. Perhaps the Vatican, the epicenter of spiritual authority, received a gentle lesson from a voiceless creature. Or maybe it's us, modern individuals, often skeptical and distracted, who needed this moment to remember. Faith isn't always proclaimed. Sometimes it's simply present. Esteban isn't a relic or an emblem. He's a dog who shared life with one man and continues with another, carrying the essence of a bygone era into the new. Somewhere within those hallowed halls, amidst statues of saints, the soft echo of Esteban's footsteps persists, not to disrupt the sanctity, but to remind us. Some legacies aren't archived in Vatican vaults, but live on in the quiet, irreplaceable moments of genuine connection.